I'm not afraid of losing my wallet so much as I'm afraid of losing my vote. I'm not afraid of losing my wallet so much as I'm afraid that my children's freedom to breathe will be stolen in a world where climate change policy is non-existent.
Hey guys, so Washington, D.C. is a dirty city. If you've spent any time here, then you know this. And you also know that it feels like a very dangerous city. Even if you are not the victim of an assault yourself, if you live here or you work here, then you probably know somebody who has been a victim of an assault or has at least undergone some sort of extremely odd, adverse, scary situation on the subway near Union Station in one of the parks. You get my point. Not everybody sees it that way. So there are some people who have come out in strong opposition to Trump's deployment of the National Guard to patrol the city. One of these people went on MSNBC to share his thoughts on why actually we should be more worried about climate change and voting rights than being mugged and murdered. So let's look at that.
What is a Democratic politician to do?
Yeah, I think this is a very interesting and difficult conversation because in politics, one of my mantras in politics, feelings very quickly become facts. So crime is real. It is blown out of proportion. People are feeling much more unsafe than maybe they statistically are. But the feeling matters. People deserve to be safe, but they also deserve to feel safe. And I think it is true that Democrats have sometimes ignored or lectured people holding a spreadsheet of statistics. That said, I think it's really important to be clear about what is going on here. And a relatively small crime problem is being used for specific authoritarian purposes that we know and understand. So let's be clear about D.C. does have one really big crime problem, which was the January 6th insurrection incited by the current president of the United States.
This is an absolutely delusional take if you've ever lived in Washington, D.C. or spent an extended amount of time in the city. Like other big cities in the U.S., you have stores shutting down because youths are robbing them or because shoplifting is so prevalent that it's really just not worth it to operate. And yes, you can wave statistics at people all you want, but if these people hear gunshots outside of their apartment at night, then it's really not going to matter. On the topic of statistics, by the way, the statistics that the Metropolitan Police like to tout about this 30-year low in crime are subject to some manipulation, as all statistics are. So they're based off of the way that the FBI classifies violent crime, but they're not an exact match. So if you go off of what the city actually reports to the FBI, then the drop in crime doesn't really look very significant. And even based off the city's own metrics, you can see that, for instance, carjackings have never returned to a 2019 level, and they spiked to insane heights in 2024, so thankfully they are down from that. But a reduction in the amount of carjackings or murders or assaults or rapes does not mean that a city is safe. Maybe it means it's slightly more safe, but you're still liable to become a victim of one of these things.
And his first act in coming back was pardoning all the people who tried to overturn constitutional republic order in Washington, D.C. When I go to D.C., I'm not afraid of losing my wallet so much as I'm afraid of losing my vote. I'm not afraid of losing my wallet so much as I'm afraid that my children's freedom to breathe will be stolen in a world where climate change policy is non-existent. I'm afraid that the future of middle-class people will be stolen by the very things you were talking about, cutting the safety net, cutting Medicaid, cutting rural hospitals.
Right.
So yeah, I just wonder who this resonates with. I mean, I guess it's a cute tagline. I mean, I'm not afraid about crime. I'm afraid that I'll lose my vote or my children will lose their vote. But what does that actually mean? I'll just say that I don't think that anyone is in danger of losing their vote unless they do commit a felony and they go to prison, or unless they're voting in elections illegally or something like that. And the mention of January 6th seems basically like a total non sequitur in terms of a conversation about violent crime plaguing Washington, D.C. There were a lot of people at the Capitol that day, but obviously many of them were not violent at all. And they just thought that they were taking a stroll through the Capitol, for which they were thoroughly punished. But let's continue with Anand's rant here.
There is carjacking, of course.
Let me just finish. There is a carjacking
but you got to worry about
two
things. You got to worry about two things at the same time.
Let me just finish my point.
But it's not. Yeah, you can finish your point, but just let's stop where you just said before you go to another point, and let's drill down into that. You can do two things at one time.
Absolutely.
You can worry about the environment. You can worry about all these other things. You can worry about January 6th. You can worry about all the things that you and I have talked about on this show over and over again that we've worried about. At the same time, you can also worry about safety.
And I started with and that's why I started with the point about safety, and that's an issue that needs to be addressed. It's an issue that is normally addressed locally, and I think it can be addressed capably locally. I agree with you that some partnership could be helpful. DC is special. But we can't ignore what he is actually trying to do here, which is weaponize this fear of not just this city, but all cities.
Well, clearly DC is not doing a good job of addressing their crime in a local fashion, and so some federal engagement is necessary here. That's what it seems like to me. And it's nice of him to bring up other cities because guess what? Other cities also have a very bad crime problem. If certain American cities were located abroad, then there would probably be travel advisories warning people not to go there, or at least warning people that, hey, you may be putting yourself at risk by going here, you should take certain precautions. And the truth is that crime is a choice. You can prosecute people, you can put people in prison and jail. Even if a certain amount of crime and violent crime is always going to persist in one manner or another, you can create disincentives to commit these sort of crimes, right? You can create high penalties like jail time, like prison time. You can empower bystanders to jump in. So think of Daniel Penny in New York, for instance, instead of prosecuting them for trying to maintain some public safety and decorum. So there are all these options available, which these local governments just don't want to do. And to me, that says that they're basically effectively choosing crime.
He can't get Chicago out of his mouth. He's not trying to intervene in the mayoral race in New York. And he is doing this to distract us from the fact that right now a crime family is atop the White House. Right now, he is running crypto schemes. He is running policy to do the upward redistribution of wealth that you were just criticizing to enrich his billionaire cronies and donors. So I think we have to have a sense of proportion. The republic is being stolen. This is the big crime story. And he is using a very comparatively smaller crime story. And see, I'm talking about both. We can talk about both. But he's using the one to do the other. Right? He's using the small crime story to entrench the big crime story in which he, a convicted felon, is the criminal.
Well, and Jonathan Lemire, what I hear over and over again by people who are talking about this, whether they support it or not, it still seems anything he does these days is look through the lens of the Epstein scandal and trying to distract America.
Just on that final point, I would say that there are probably some people who are going to look at the entire administration through the lens of the Epstein scandal. But a lot of people are quite pleased about what he's doing in Washington, D.C. A lot of people that live here are happy with it. And regardless of conjecture about political maneuvering, people want to live in a city where they feel safe, where they don't feel that their physical safety, well-being is at risk every day just by taking the subway to work. So I would say that even if you are worried about climate change or our democracy, you should put those concerns into the long-term bucket, and you should refer to the short-term concern of being mugged or killed in your daily travels. I think that you probably won't be able to do much about carbon emissions if you're dead, though you will decrease your own carbon footprint, so food for thought. What do you think about his line of arguing here? Is it sound? Do you agree with it? What do you think about what Trump's doing in DC? Let me know in the comments section below. Give this video a like, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.